You've always got to debate whether the type of natural disaster relevant to you is the type where you need to hunker down or the type where you need to run. I do feel like when it comes to go bags are relevant and specific to the situation where you have to depart. Yes. You have to leave. You should never try to hunker down with only a bag.
Right.
That's not a good idea. Right? When you hunker down, you kind of build the equipment and build the survivability into your home or into the place where you're hunkering.
Right.
So when we talk about go bags, it really is to evacuate.
Yeah.
For us, we have never owned a home in Florida where there were underground power lines, where it was resilient against hurricanes. We even built in hurricane proofing technology into our home. Yeah. But it's still like, it's there to protect the house from being destroyed in a hurricane. Yes. It's not there to protect the individuals inside the house during a hurricane.
Right. And one of our big issues during the 2017 hurricane was that we had your grandmother and we had a newborn and we knew the power would go out. Right. And we didn't know because that's just, I mean, on a regular storm night, the power would go out. The transformer close to our house kept blowing and we had no control over that.
So we had the very young and the very elderly under our care at the time.
Yep. In summer. And if the power went out, we were like, that's not a good situation for any of us. So we knew we had to go that year.
Yeah. So, and then we've had the same thing happen to us overseas too. We lived in places that were tsunami warnings. Yeah. Tsunami warning places. And a tsunami is not the kind of thing where you hunker down. Yeah. Right? Even if they're not regular, you know, even if they don't happen every year, they happen every 3 or 4 years, you have to have a plan to evacuate when you're in any kind of zone that threatens tsunami. I lived in Colorado. I lived in California. With the military, those are wildfire areas. Again, wildfires are not something that you hunker down for. Yeah. You have to evacuate. I love this subject. I love that you brought this up.
Yeah. And, you know, the first time I ever thought about go bags and it ever seemed important to me to have a go bag was actually when I used to work as a social worker, because I used to work with refugees and asylum seekers. And there were so many stories about people who lived in areas where there was unrest, and then the unrest came to their village and they had to run, and they had to run through a forest to some other village, right? I mean, they were in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, oftentimes they, you know, ran, you know, right out of their house barefoot with just the clothes they were wearing, no food, no water, you know, and they're trying to survive in a forest with wild animals until they can get to someplace, you know, where it's safe, where they can get to a refugee camp, you know, and then the rest is history after that. But you have to survive the first, you know, you have to survive the fleeing. Wow. And I thought, you know, in the United States, we don't think about these things oftentimes because we feel relatively safe. But I thought,
you know, the riots that happened in California during the COVID years, people were fleeing.
Yeah.
Right. And there are oftentimes riots and demonstrations in cities during Black Lives Matter is another period of time where people would flee.
And that was the same time as when I developed the mindset of you can never say it can't happen here. Never. Because anything can happen anywhere.
If you like this short clip, make sure you click here to see the next clip or here to see the full podcast episode.
So fresh, so new.